Without truth, there can be no justice.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Speak out. Ask those questions. Demand that truth.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Truth is Justice. We finished last week's episode discussing the Melgar's living room as discussed by Mr Carpenter. Our intention was to continue with the room by room analysis and pick up this week where we left off last week, at the Melgar's kitchen. But many of you will be aware of all the discussions surrounding the Sylvania 32-inch TV, and so instead, this week, we're going to dedicate the entire episode to talking about the findings from last week's episode, specifically with respect to the TV in the office. And the discussions around this TV, as many of you listening would be aware, have been very, very significant and raised some huge questions that may have some very uncomfortable answers, depending on your views of this case. Over the past week, we've seen the narrative change quite a bit by Bob and others as they seek to incorporate the new understanding of the TV in the study into their theories. And there isn't anything wrong with that. In fact, incorporating the new understanding is a good thing. You take what the evidence shows, and rather than maintaining the same story, which no longer fits, you adapt the investigation to incorporate the new details. But importantly, and crucially, you can't simply change the story to incorporate that new understanding of the evidence. It has to go further than that, and it has to fit with everything that has been said. Every interview, every statement, they've all created a particular story. Unwinding that, or changing that in any meaningful way, is exceedingly difficult, and if not done truthfully, it can result in huge damage to the credibility of individuals and compromises the believability of the entire story. So consider the initial and rapid dismissal on the 21st of December 2018 by Bob that the TV in the study was a 19-inch television or a computer monitor. Now let us look closely at the progression of the TV story and Bob's original take on it, because that contains some very interesting points about the way the matter of this TV has been handled, by the family specifically. We'll start with the interview that was conducted with Liz by Detectives Carazzo and Doucet on the 26th of December 2012. This was the day after Liz arrived back in Houston after catching a flight from Europe the day before. The detectives asked Liz whether she has visited the home since the murder, and Liz says she hasn't. The detectives asked Liz to take note when she does visit the house of any items that might be missing. Now, with respect to items that might be missing, Liz notes to the detectives the following, and to use her words, quote, "There was a TV in her room, flat screen TV. I think that might be gone." End quote. It's important to note again here that Liz hadn't visited the house at that point, so this information about the TV and other items being missing isn't a direct observation by Liz. The information has been passed on to her by someone else. Then we'll skip ahead to September the 8th, 2018, and to some comments Liz made on a Facebook group about the TV. In response to a question, Liz responds with the following, and to quote her again, "So what happened to the 32-inch TV? The receipt was given to the lawyers, so we know it existed. Where did it go?" End quote. And then again on the 8th of September 2018, in response to a question about the other TVs in the house, Liz notes the following, and again to quote her, "The other TVs were either 48 inches but mounted securely to a wall, in brackets, I had a hell of a time getting it down, close brackets, a massive 53-inch rear projection TV, and an older tube TV," end quote. And then a third message, again in response to televisions in the house, and again on the 8th of September 2018. So to quote Liz again, The 32-inch that is still missing was a flat screen." End quote. Then on October 24th, 2018, following some discussion about the TV in the office in a Facebook group, and to quote Liz again, "I gave the cops the serial number and receipt for the missing TV. It's not even the same make as that one. I feel like I'm going crazy when people keep rehashing this because I've seen the TV, I had the receipts for the TV, and now it's gone. But some people keep insisting it must have never been there." End quote. In reply to that comment, someone then goes on to ask whether, when she talks about knowing the TV in the office, Liz is talking about the rear projection Sony in the office. Now that's the very large rear projection TV we see in the office photos. And Liz confirms that she is meaning that TV, the large rear projection Sony. So to quote again from Liz, "Yes, the Sony was in my room for a bit, but it wasn't working for a while, so it was moved into the office." End quote. So this isn't just a guess or some error. Liz was using the TV. She knows exactly the TV that is being referred to, the large rear projection TV that it is claimed didn't work. Then on November the 4th, 2018, a question is asked of Liz about the TV on the shelf in the office. And that's what we now know is the Sylvania 32-inch TV-DVD combo. And the question's asked of Liz whether it is a TV. And Liz responds to this question very briefly. And to quote Liz, "It is a TV, but not the missing TV." End quote. Now, there's a lot going on in these comments. We have Liz first acknowledging on the 8th of September 2018 that the receipt for the TV was given to Sandra's lawyers. Then on the 24th of October 2018, we have Liz saying that she provided the police with the serial number and receipt for the missing TV. Then again, on the 24th of October 2018, to a question about which TV Liz is referring to knowing and excluding as the missing TV, Liz confirms she is referring to the very large Sony rear projection TV in the office. So we see how at various times the TV in the office was raised and it was dismissed each time by Liz, but not dismissed on the basis of it being recognised as a 32-inch flat screen TV. Liz didn't seem to be aware of that. In fact, Liz didn't seem to have any awareness that the TV receipt and sales inquiry form provided to the detectives by Sandra's lawyers was the very TV we see in the photos. It was not missing or stolen. It was there in the house, on the shelf in the study. This wouldn't necessarily be unusual to everyone. Trying to recall items contained within a house you don't live in and haven't lived in for a long period of time could be challenging. But remember, Liz has been called upon multiple times to provide a seemingly superhuman ability to recall very specific details of the Melgars' home and the contents within it, despite at the same time suffering from lupus fog and, in her own words, being unaware at times of even what year it is. I'm not at all suggesting that these claims or statements are false. I'm saying it raises some very interesting questions that need to be considered. In this progression of the TV matter, we then move to the 21st of December 2018, so very recent. Bob notes that on the shelf in the study, and to use Bob's exact words, is a small, what looks like it could be a small, flat-screen TV, and then goes on to note that, first of all, it isn't 32 inches, it is maybe a 19-inch type monitor. Interestingly, at this point, and remember this is only a month or so ago on the 21st of December 2018, Bob asks Liz, and Liz is present during the episode to answer listener questions, to tell the audience about that TV in the office, the one that we now know is the 32-inch Sylvania TV-DVD combo. And Liz notes the following with respect to the TV, and I'll quote her. "I'm pretty sure that was just a smaller TV, because the 55-inch TV that you see there, the rear projection TV, it had gone out and it had quit working for a while, and I'm not sure why they hadn't gotten rid of it yet. I mean, I think it was because sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. But yeah, they just had that TV in the office to have on whenever they were working in there." End quote. Bob then asked Liz to confirm that she provided the manual and the receipts for the 32-inch TV that was missing from the bedroom, and for Liz to confirm that that was not the TV that was in that office. Liz responds, and to quote her again, "Right, they were different brands, and they weren't even the same size, as you have already mentioned." End quote. Now, this is very important, because Liz is suggesting that she has no knowledge of the type of TV that was in the office study. No knowledge that the 32-inch Sylvania TV that they have the receipt for is the TV in the office. In fact, there is still the apparent belief that the Sylvania TV, the one the receipt was obtained for, is the TV assumed to have been stolen. It just hasn't been realised that the Sylvania TV is actually the TV in the office. Now that's quite mind-boggling if you think about it, and it represents a huge problem for the story of the supposedly stolen TV. And we've not heard previously any mention of a smaller flat-screen TV or monitor in the house. In fact, we have Liz herself noting that the TVs in the house were a 48-inch flat-screen wall-mounted TV, a massive 53-inch rear projection TV, and an older tube TV. Absolutely no reference to a smaller flat-screen TV. And this is from someone who has been relied upon to give extremely detailed recollections of elements of the Melgar family home. For example, the brands and number of kitchen knives, the brands and style of power tools located inside the garage, brands and style of clothing worn by Jim and Sandra, specific details about and the specific location of various pieces of furniture in the house, and even the location and composition of clothes hangers that were found in the house. So the suggestion that the TV in the office was a smaller flat-screen TV of approximately 19 inches causes a problem with the stolen TV narrative. Because once we have confirmation, as we do now, that the TV in the study was the 32-inch television from the receipts, the stolen TV narrative, if you continue down the path that Bob and family appears to be continuing down, requires that 2 further flat-screen TVs have to be located and explained. A smaller, maybe 19-inch flat-screen TV that, based on Liz's recollection, may have sometimes been on the shelves in the office, and then another 32-inch flat-screen TV that was in the master bedroom. And also that, for some reason, Liz has completely zero memory of the Sylvania TV DVD combo. So how's that possible? Confused? Yeah, absolutely. And not because the facts are blurry. No, the facts are completely straightforward. I'm confused because the story regarding the TVs has become so unnecessarily complex that it becomes obvious to me exactly why Sandra's defence team opted not to present the receipt of the TV, or make any mention of the specific details of the TV during the trial. It is, quite simply, hard for me to determine how the story which the family has given of a stolen TV pieces together in any type of plausible way. As you may have seen, over the past week the narrative has now changed to reflect that the TV in the office was an additional TV, and that it was not the TV that was in the Melgar's master bedroom, the TV that was supposedly stolen. Now the problem with that narrative, as we've demonstrated, is it ignores a few key, important elements relating to the way in which the office TV was brought to the attention of the detectives and how the receipt for it was obtained. Of course, one can simply change the narrative again so it does fit. But, well, you can make up your own mind about how many times changes like that are legitimate and acceptable before they become ultimately damaging to the underlying case. In my view, the limit in that respect has already been breached. So during the past week, there's been the immediate suggestion by Bob that Sandra simply grabbed the wrong receipt. Now let's consider that statement for a minute. And where did that come from? Did it come from Sandra? Did it come from Liz? Or was it directly from Bob? That's important because it simply isn't what happened. The receipt and sales inquiry were not pulled out of a filing cabinet or a drawer or dug out from boxes in storage. And how do we know that? Because the receipt and sales inquiries were dated 7th of March 2013. At just after 7:40 p.m. I don't know the opening hours of Aaron's in 2013, but we know the store closes at 7 p.m. on Thursdays now, and it was the Thursday that this receipt and sales inquiry were printed after hours. The actual sale of the TV, according to the receipt, took place on the 3rd of December 2011 at just after 5 p.m. So either there was a strange fault with the sales inquiry form printing system and the point of sale receipt system whereby both the receipt and sales inquiry forms were printed with the same date 2 years in advance and within weeks of when it was provided to detectives, or the far more likely situation where the post-sale date tells us that the receipt was tracked down and a reprint was specifically requested for the purposes of providing proof for the 32-inch TV claimed to have been stolen. And why is that relevant? Well, it's crucially important because the new narrative seems to suggest a couple of things, including that the receipt was grabbed by Sandra without any thought, and that is it. She simply grabbed the wrong receipt. Now, it's suggested that Sandra could have found the correct receipt to match the supposedly stolen TV, but entirely by mistake she didn't. But the reality is that isn't what happened. It appears that the receipt was obtained from the store where the TV was purchased on the 7th of March 2013. And how would you go about doing that? Well, To begin with, you would need to obviously know where the TV was purchased, and you would also perhaps have to have an idea of what the TV was and somehow communicate that to people to try and get to the answer. Now remember, it has to be a specific TV, and it has to match a TV that is claimed to have been stolen, a 32-inch flat-screen TV. And this one, the Sylvania TV DVD combo that is in the office, that matches that perfectly. And one of the new narratives offered also provides for a situation where a friend happened to work at the store that sold the TV. And that's fine. Well, I suppose it's fine, but not really plausible in explaining how the receipt came to be thought of as relevant. Now think to yourself how that communication would go out for the friend at the store, 5.5 hours away, to know that they needed to track down the purchase of a particular TV and reprint the receipt, and imagine all of that being done in a way that doesn't at all stand out in the memory of any family member, specifically Liz. And I say that because this is the first time it has been brought up. Not the TV, that's been brought up plenty of times. I mean the matter of the 32-inch TV in the study, the Sylvania TV. It's almost like that TV didn't exist, even though it was present in the study, and even though it appears to have taken some effort to obtain the receipt and to pass it on to detectives through Sandra's lawyers. And the conversation with the store attendant 5.5 hours away wouldn't be something simply done in passing. For example, you wouldn't say, "Oh, and a TV was stolen from the home and I can't for the life of me find the receipt for it." And nor would it be something that would come up generally. Remember, we've been told almost from day one that Jim was meticulous in his maintaining of records of the purchases they made. And we've been told by Liz that Jim kept receipts for everything. Nothing that indicates or even draws attention to the fact that a sales consultant at a store 5.5 hours away had to reprint a receipt. Now, even this need to obtain a new receipt in recent days has attempted to be explained through the suggestion that in the weeks following the murder, upon the clean-up and pack-up of the Melgar home, amounts of material, lots of stuff, was simply thrown away. Now consider that for a minute. Within a matter of weeks after the murder, it's suggested that Jim's paperwork and other material is actually being tossed away. So consider the discussion and the events that took place surrounding the notification of the supposedly stolen TV. A number of family members make a comment that a TV was stolen from the master bedroom. And we have various accounts of family members describing the TV as usually residing in the master bedroom on top of the cabinet. And we've also been told that Jim meticulously filed away receipts and manuals for electronic devices, tools and other equipment. So the family, perhaps Sandra, perhaps someone else, goes searching for the receipt for a 32-inch television. Maybe in boxes, if the home had already been packed up by then, and they simply don't find one. And we know they don't find one because on the 7th of March 2013, they have to go get one from Aaron's. The receipt and sales inquiry from Aaron's arrives, and it clearly spells out the type and model of TV. Now, another element of this story, or the changing narrative, is that it took some investigating to find out that it was a TV/DVD combo. Now, it really shouldn't have taken too much research. The receipt and the sales inquiry form both tell us that the product is a TV-DVD combination, and that also provides the model number. So one quick Google search and you can find the specifications of the TV. So the family receives the receipt and the sales inquiry form from the store, and it indicates that the TV was a 32-inch TV/DVD combo. There's no suggestion at the time, or 5 years later, or anywhere in between, absolutely no suggestion that the receipt obtained isn't the TV that it is claimed was stolen. In fact, from what the records show, that is the one TV receipt provided to the detectives, the only one. And it appears to be the one TV that everyone, including Liz, continues to refer to. So think about it. You go to the trouble of obtaining a post-sale copy of the receipt and the sales inquiry form from the store, a store that is located 350 miles away from the Melgar's home in Houston, and then you provide those documents to detectives, but you are not sure whether that is the TV or not? That doesn't seem to be logical at all. There's certainly no suggestion in the email from Mr Owesi, the Melgar's lawyer at the time, to the detectives that another television receipt was coming or being searched for. It appears that this was it. Additionally, would you accept that no one reviewed the receipts before it was passed on to the legal counsel for passing on to the detectives? I don't for 1 second. If you're talking about the TV that was supposedly stolen and that no one bothered to check the receipt yet had enough details to request the receipt, bizarre doesn't even come close. Now let's imagine that all the planets aligned and the Melgars owned a second 32-inch television that was kept in their master bedroom, the one supposedly stolen by an intruder. Now where's the evidence of this 32-inch television? The answer is there hasn't been any evidence of it presented at all. Not a shred of evidence after 6 years. Nothing at trial and nothing that I am aware of since. So even with the apparent knowledge of a different model TV, we still have no evidence of it existing. Nothing. Even after 6 years. And when the claim is that receipts were meticulously kept, you would imagine locating the documentation of a second 32-inch TV would be somewhat straightforward. And you'd be highly motivated to get it if it existed. And we can go even further and note how Liz has described how Jim and Sandra would watch the flat screen TV in the office when they were working. So Sandra was apparently used to watching that TV, but wasn't aware that it was a different one to the one in the master bedroom. Now, as we've already highlighted, these TV discussions are not new, not even remotely, but this is the first time they haven't been rapidly dismissed. Now, I recall participating in similar discussions several months ago on the Facebook group associated with Bob's show, and Liz was involved in those same discussions. Now, interestingly, despite the involvement of different family members in that page, and at least one of those family members, Liz, being directly involved in that specific discussion, there was no attempt to correct or address any of the comments being made about the TV in the office. Now, there were varying suggestions of that TV, and bear in mind we were operating from just a photo from Mr Carpenter, and no one, including Liz, gave any information on it. The TV that apparently necessitated getting a store assistant from 5.5 hours away to find a receipt. It was claimed that what appeared to be a TV in the photo was variously described as a computer monitor, an all-in-one PC, a small flat-screen TV. Importantly, none of those were corrected by Liz or any other family members. And you're entirely right in asking yourself why. Why was that never corrected? Now, the stolen 32-inch TV represents a significant element pointed to by those claiming that this was a burglary. Yet, the existence of another 32-inch television in the home, the one which the receipt was obtained for, goes by without a single mention in these discussions. Now, if it's hard to keep up with the pace of the changing narrative around this TV, that's because it's changing at such a rapid pace, seemingly to juggle the multiple conflicts of the story. So here's what I think, and it isn't easy to try and summarise it all, because this TV issue, not the facts, but the handling of the story, is so bizarre. So, judging sizes, remembering makes and models, and when the TV was present in a friend's master bedroom, is a difficult thing to get right. So even with the photographs, Bob, who's reflected in the past on his ability to analyse photographs of crime scenes, got this one incredibly wrong. He claimed this was a 19-inch TV or a computer monitor. So what did the family members observe in the Melgars' master bedroom, and when did they observe it? Now, it may have been the Sylvania TV, moved in there temporarily at one time or another. It could also have been a laptop with a screen up, or a computer monitor, and there are different TVs in different rooms of the house that could easily have been placed there at one time or another. Now, the S-video cable, which is referred to and which is protruding from behind the base of the cabinet, could have been used to connect different devices to a given TV. One of those devices could be a laptop to play DVDs, or it could also have connected a handycam or a handheld video camera or a digital camera with video function exported to the TV. Now, perhaps the TV that was sometimes kept there no longer worked. A Sylvania brand of TV received some terrible reviews online. Or perhaps it was that it was simply moved because Sandra wasn't feeling like working out, or perhaps, as Liz provides some details on, the 32-inch Sylvania TV was used in the office because the large rear projection TV didn't work consistently, and Jim and Sandra liked to watch TV whilst in the office. In fact, when Liz describes the supposedly stolen TV to Detective Carousel just days after the murder, she didn't provide any details about it. Not a model, not a size, not a type, only that it was a flat-screen TV. She didn't even provide the reasons for why she believed the TV was missing. Remember, she hadn't even been to the house yet. Remember, we've heard various accounts of how debilitating Sandra's illnesses were during the period of time leading up to the murder. She was sleeping until midday, she required a cane, she was suffering from seizures and the effects of lupus and arthritis. It would seem unlikely then that she would be physically capable of undertaking a challenging fitness program, especially if Pilates workout, as the case in the ground shows, or an aerobics workout, as the top DVD in a stack of DVDs in the drawer appears to show. And it's also perhaps equally unlikely that Sandra would perform an aerobics session or a Pilates session whilst on the treadmill. I'm sure those types of workouts exist, but I don't think that is what those DVDs were. Now, we're also reminded in this changing narrative of Bob's of the suggestion that a DVD player was also supposedly present in the master bedroom to play these DVDs. Now remember, that DVD player isn't noted as being stolen in any formal testimony that I've seen, and it doesn't appear to have been something that was discussed at all during the trial, not even when the TV is very briefly raised a number of times. So from what I can tell, it was something only raised recently by Liz as being another item that was stolen. And Liz definitely didn't make mention of it to the police during her interview a few days after the murder, when she mentions the TV, and it isn't referred to by Sandra's lawyers when the Sylvania TV receipt is provided to the detectives. So if it hasn't been stolen, where would the DVD player be? You wouldn't imagine it would be located in a drawer. That'd be an odd spot for a DVD player, and it wouldn't make for easy use of the remote control or to control the functions of the DVD menu. It also wouldn't be located behind the cabinet. How would you get to it to put in the DVDs, and how would you control it? The remote wouldn't work. In reality, I don't believe there was a DVD player there. Again, we have absolutely no evidence to suggest there was one. We have the S-video cable, which is protruding from behind the cabinet. As I mentioned, I believe that cable may have at one time been used to connect something up to a TV and then was simply left there. Now, if the rest of the house was pristine and everything was in its place, then perhaps it would be out of place, but the house definitely isn't that way. And the point about the DVD player is this. If it's to be suggested that Sandra was using a TV in the master bedroom to watch workout DVDs right up to the point prior to the murder, then the absence of that DVD player is a significant problem for Sandra's narrative, unless, of course, you consider the Sylvania 32-inch TV-DVD combo, the one that is in the office. And finally, what evidence do we have that a TV was actually there on the night that Jim was murdered? We have a bare cabinet top and a homemade antenna behind the treadmill. And we'll get to the master bedroom in detail later on, but briefly, the assumption that the top of that cabinet was like that all the time is just that, an assumption. It isn't something supported by anything other than that is how we find it when the photos are taken. And the antenna, well, if a TV was at some point in time kept in that room and there was the intention to move it back there at some point in the future, and I can imagine the antenna would be left exactly where it is. It appears to me to have been positioned there for a reason. Perhaps that spot got the best signal. Anyone that's played around with reception with an antenna knows that if you get a good signal, you tend to leave it there. So does the presence of the antenna mean that a TV was kept in that room at the time of Jim's murder? No, of course not. Now, we often hear from Bob and others about how it would have taken a criminal mastermind to stage the scene in the way we see it. Well, let's think about that. We've been through the front door, the guest bedroom, the southeast corner bedroom, the office, the living room, and what do we have so far in terms of evidence of a criminal mastermind? We have a handful of drawers that are open, and the contents not at all disturbed. We have a couple of armoire doors that are open, again, the contents of which isn't disturbed. No criminal mastermind yet that I can see. In fact, I'd suggest there is really nothing at all to suggest that anything was out of place in those rooms. A clear cabinet top and a homemade antenna. No, I think it takes a lot more than that to substantiate claims of a stolen TV. So will the narrative around the TV change in the coming days and weeks? Absolutely. Of course, and I anticipate that regardless of what is offered, it will continue to change. It has to keep the burglar-intruder narrative alive. Even when doing so necessitates the narrative evolving into something more closely resembling fiction than the truth. Now, it's important to remember that the 32-inch TV has been a central piece of the intruder/burglar narrative from early on. A stolen flat-screen TV is relatable to people. It's large, it's tangible, and the exact observable location of it can be noted, and it can be confirmed by family and friends, which is exactly what we have seen. Now, as has been highlighted, whether intentional or otherwise, Sandra even draws attention to the TV during her police interviews with respect to the location of her boots. Even though, as Tom highlighted on our Facebook group, the boots were directly beside the treadmill, a far more reasonable reference point perhaps. Now, if you take another item, such as prescription medicine for example, it doesn't have the same qualities. Bottles and packets of medication are usually kept in drawers or cabinets and they don't readily represent something that friends and family can easily confirm the existence of or the theft of. So if the stolen TV argument is dropped from the family narrative, it's not just added to the list of ongoing changes to the theory, and joining the increasingly large list of other items, for example the Rolex watch, the power tools, the Xbox, which have been claimed at one time or another to have been stolen. It results in the centrepiece of the intruder/burglar narrative being completely abandoned. Now, it's one thing to do that in the period of time immediately following the murder, but to do that now, after 6 years and after extensive trial testimony, and after repeated assertions via various media platforms supporting the supposed theft, in my opinion, that would cause further significant damage to Sandra's case, more so than running with an increasingly fictional and implausible scenario. For those of you that are intimately familiar with criminal trials and defence strategy, and even for those that aren't, you'll know that if the understanding of evidence changes or new evidence appears, you change the narrative or the story to fit the new take on the evidence. There's nothing wrong with that per se. It is the way a good defence is structured. But it does mean the case can be exposed and weakened. You'll see, when you change the narrative over and over again and you put plaster over every single crack that appears, all you're doing is covering up the truth. All you're doing is preventing people from seeing that justice was actually served originally. All you're doing is delivering misleading statements to an audience who are largely insistent on finding a wrongful conviction at any cost. And that is where we believe we are making a difference. Every statement corrected, every week. Join with us next week as we continue our analysis. We are Truth is Justice, and we are setting the record straight.
Thank you.